Welcome to this week's episode of the Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned podcast. If you've been following along lately, you know that something has been brewing, and I am so excited to share with you exactly what that is. So, what we have coming up is something we've been working on for almost a year. It is a curated, powerful women's leadership and lifestyle festival. And it's going to be hosted at the Pillar and Post in the stunning Niagara-on-the-Lake. Wake the F Up Festival. Whatever the F is, you need to wake up, whether it's fun, focus, freedom, or the other one. We have designed a transformative experience just for you. This isn't just another leadership conference. It's a celebration. It's a breakthrough. And it's coming together as powerful women ready to align your success with true fulfillment. Imagine connecting with like-minded souls, diving deep into professional growth, and walking away not just inspired, but truly awakened. We're talking about electric energy, real conversations, and actionable insights that you can take back into your business and life. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers, including the powerhouse Olympic champion Elizabeth Manley, the unstoppable swagger coach Leslie M., and so many other absolutely powerhouse women who are ready to pour all of their gifts into you. I'll have all the details linked in the show notes, so make sure you check that out after the episode. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. It is time. It is your time to find another way to actually lean into being ambitious, awakened, and aligned. Now, let's dive into today's conversation and keep that momentum going. Let's go! Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned. So as you can see, Gerard and I are out on location. We decided that based on the topic that we're going to dive into today, that we thought it would be maybe inspirational or just aligned with the conversation we're having around work-life balance.
Work-life balance.
Ooh, is it a myth? Is it real? How do we achieve it? So we're going to dive in, and we're doing it together because he's my partner in everything. And so welcome, Gerard. And we just thought it would be cool to explore our different perspectives, how we both handle it differently, and maybe even that we both have different perspectives on it. So welcome.
Well, thank you.
Welcome back.
Yeah, excited to be here, especially excited to be here on beautiful Georgian Bay. So that's really exciting. And I'm excited to talk about this topic because it's something we hear a lot, whether it's family, friends. I know definitely hear it a lot from my leadership team as well, and many groups of people. And it almost seems like the word balance almost stresses people out, the word itself, because people try so hard to get there.
Yeah, I think when we look at life, it's more static, right? So I've always looked at this balance word as, I think of the teeter-totter, and it's supposed to be even. And so balance to me gives this belief that everything should feel equal and completely equal, even. And I don't know. I don't think that that's based on all the years in business and life now. I don't think it's possible. And so I think it causes all of this false sense of insecurity, or, well, maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe he's got it figured out. Maybe she has it figured out, because I sure the fuck don't have it figured out. That's...
Can we say that word on this podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, and I apologize to anyone that might feel out of balance for, but some days just require that word.
Laurie, I'm in complete agreement with you. I think people do think they have to work 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 7 is family time, and then from 7 to 9 is some other time, and whatever it may be. And I think you're just creating a whole lot of stress that really doesn't need to be there, because I think in reality, life just doesn't work that way, right? You get thrown some curveballs, and things happen and come at you that you don't expect. And I think you really have to learn to roll with the punches And I'm excited to talk about that. Because when I speak to my friends and leadership team, this is a conversation that that we speak about quite often. And it's really about what's the lens you look at it, and how do you view the world and work and life. And my recommendation always is, how do we get those both work, life, and balance? How do we get them intertwined into one? So we can dive a little bit deeper in that as we move on.
Yeah, I think I'm reminded of the quote from Brené Brown, and I'm going to read it just so I don't get this wrong. I don't want to misquote Brené. That would not be good. And I also want to say, for those of you that are just listening and you can't see where we are, the sounds you're hearing are nature. We've got some water in the background. We've got some bees a-buzzing around us. We've got some boats flying by. And so I don't want you to wonder what's going on with the sound quality. Just to give you a little visual, maybe you can close your eyes and picture where we are. But Brené says that we're not supposed to be perfect, but we are supposed to be ourselves. And balance often pushes us toward perfection, when really what we should be focusing on is authenticity. So when I think about times in my life when I've been chasing this elusive balance, I know that I felt more stressed than fulfilled. And I think back to when the kids were littles, and they're not so little anymore, but when they were littles, and I was first a corporate leader when they were tiny beings, and I would go to work and feel so guilty that I wasn't being the mom I wanted to be. And then I would go home and I would feel so guilty that I wasn't being the best leader I could be. And I remember having this moment studying Brené and kind of cracking wide open of, hang on a second here. I am just caught in this hyper perfectionism trap. And what if, and there was also this, like, I have to be a different person at work than I'm supposed to be at home. And that would be the moment in time where I started exploring and wondering and getting curious about, could I just be Laurie? Could I just be me, the person, show up with my gifts and values and perspectives and be present where I was, and find a way for more alignment and harmony to exist than this balance thing? Because I know I never felt balanced. I felt this constant teeter-totter of who needed me and how I was going to show up in that moment. So I'm wondering what your experience, because I do think men and women have a different experience in this. And so what's your experience of that? Does that resonate, or how would you describe a story or a feeling you've been through?
Got a few stories I can think about, but I think the word you used that really hit home for me was the presence. I can think years back, and I'm going back 10, 20 years ago, and all within that range. And I think, as the struggle, with balance. And for me, it was always, I never felt I could keep business Gerard right, where I couldn't do enough there. I couldn't do enough at home. I couldn't do enough as a friend. So all of that seemed to me back then out of balance. So fast forward to today, I think I have a better understanding now of not putting that pressure on myself to say, hey, I've got to put all these hours from 8 to 5 or 7 to 5 or whatever it may be. I think what I've learned is there's a time for everything, and some things need more time than others in a certain season of the year, or day of the year, or week of the year, or month of the year. So what I've learned is give whatever it needs the attention it deserves when it needs the attention. And I think it's really important to focus on the important and not urgent. And also not always cater to, the outside pressures. And when you said basically being present. To me, what's the most important thing is be present to where your feet are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are spending time with your family, be time with your family. If you're spending that time at work, then be at work. And I think that is a huge, huge thing. And it sounds so simple, yet how many people are actually living in the clouds and they're everywhere but nowhere?
Yeah. I think you actually said it brilliantly recently to one of our children, where you said, be planted where you are. It's a great farm analogy. But really, like, the corn stalk is going to grow where it is. And so wherever our feet are, so I love this analogy that has come from you. I also felt like in that moment, we should have had a good Gerard Roy, Mike Lipkin voice. Be on fire. You got to do it. I can't do it.
I don't know. You put me on the spot.
When you need to be on fire, be on fire.
Be on fire.
Yeah.
Well, how many times have you and I talked about it? And listen, this is a lot easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I don't always get this right, because we are thinking about work. We are thinking about our kids. We're at work. We're thinking about our family. We're thinking about wife. I need to be home. And then once we're home, we're thinking about work. And there are some times that we have to get ourselves out of autopilot.
Yes.
And be present and current and be with the person you're with. And I know for myself, and I'll be very vulnerable here, I got a little bit of ADD, right? I've got
just input.
a little, and if I'm not conscious of being where my feet are at, it is so easy for me to think of a big project that's going on at work or some deadlines I have to hit. I think the important part is really planning your day and planning the time that you need in order to do something. And then when you've done that work, then let it go and move forward and then move on to the next thing where you're at. And I know for me is that when I'm at home, then be with you, be with my kids, be with my mom and dad, be with your friend, be with whoever they are, but just be there and be present.
I think that the world is creating this to be actually a necessity to have even a heightened awareness or heightened level of consciousness, because we have so many different pieces of information coming at us constantly. So I think on this point is just taking a moment. You know, what's an action you can take from this conversation? And that is just take a moment and notice. Just step into self-awareness and ask yourself, wherever you are you present there? Or are your thoughts always distracted by something else in another place where you aren't in that very moment? And, you know, Gerard and I were recently at a beach on our summer trip, and we saw this set of parents and these two littles just begging for some attention from their parents, and the two parents were on the cell phones. And this is not a story of judgment, because I can probably guarantee we've all done it. Even with our 20-something kids, when they've wanted our attention, we might be on the phone doing something and just second. But I think what struck me is we have to have more awareness about it. We really need to know, like when you're at the beach with your kids, be present. Just be present and practice this, because this takes practice. I think we're all ADD in this stage with so much information coming at us. So, you know, there's an action that you can take for sure. So now I kind of want to shift further into this thought process about harmony. So I'm going to introduce, I'm sure we've all heard this word. Could harmony be something we could strive towards versus this elusive balance thing? And if we could use a word like harmony or alignment, would we actually start to feel less pressure, less self-judgment of trying to achieve this thing that, quite frankly, we're just never going to achieve? So when you think of harmony, Gerard, or let's just stick with harmony, what do you feel about that? And what comes up for you with that?
That's a good question.
I thought for sure you were going to say, here we go wordsmithing again, Laurie.
Yeah, that's right. Harmony.
I love language.
You love language.
I do.
Well, if I were to think harmony, to me, I think it's being at peace with all of it. I think I said earlier in the podcast is, how do you intertwine all of these things together? I've had people at work going, oh, I work so hard and I had to do this. I had to be on this call and on the way home. And it's like, oh, it's just, I'm busy. The word I'm busy, that's becoming one of the most overused words in the history of the English language.
Yeah.
And I just find it a lazy word because we're all busy. And what does that really mean, right?
What does it mean?
What does it mean? And to me, when you feel like you're out of balance, or to me, it's all about what lens are you looking at this at? I know for me, the position we are as people in leadership, you're there to help serve others. You're there to help people. You're walking them through something. You're walking them off the ledge. You're helping them both, whether it's about the business or their personal, but it's all intertwined. And if I have to take a call to help somebody out, it's after 5, it's after 6, or whatever it may be. I don't sit there and look at my clock and say, oh my, I had to help this person. And like, I've worked so hard and whatnot. It's, this is the profession I picked. And sometimes I have to give a little bit more to my work. And I know personally, if I have to work a little bit extra and give someone that time, I'm going to give them that time because that's also going to make me feel better. And I think that's important, because if you actually are living a life with a purpose and you're doing something that you love and you believe in, you don't mind working those extra hours. And so if I'm giving one of my leaders or one of my kids or anyone that extra time, I'm not looking at my watch going, oh, there's another hour off the clock that I've worked more than I'm with my family. And I think it's the same thing with family. We just had an example the other day, and we had a shift in plans, right? We were supposed to be at a friend's place on a weekend and celebrate. And I was saying, Gerard, what date can we do? Because your Saturdays are typically busy, and can you please, join us and we will work around your date. I give him the date and said, I will be there. Absolutely. But of course, as the world works, something's changed. And there was an event that we had to be there for one of our children. And I had to,
I think we chose to be there for one of our children. And this is where we do, even the harmony piece is we have to be mindful of our language, because it's a choice. We did get to choose if we wanted to invest that time and energy and disappoint a friend to support our son who needed us in that moment for what he was experiencing. So not to cut you off on that thought process, I think it's important because when we're in balance, when we're trying to achieve balance, it does feel like a have to. And when we're trying to achieve harmony, I feel like it feels like a choice.
Well, and that's much better put. And I think the word choice is the right word. And we chose to be there for our son at that time because we felt it was more important to be with him during that time than to be with our friend.
We found harmony
situation, and we felt a lot better about it. We didn't feel like it was out of balance. Sure, you're never going to make everybody happy, but we have to make those choices.
And then we still popped in.
And then we still popped in after, and so we kind of got our cake and eat it too, which. Who doesn't want their cake and eat it too? And we can go on that forever.
Yeah, that's a whole podcast of its own.
But I think the point of the matter is to me, you have to think of what is most important, and you want to plan it for the future. So I think first, plan for the importance, plan your day, plan your week, plan your month. Know that it's not always going to go as planned. And when things happen, you have to adjust, you adjust. But the more you plan for the important, the less the urgent things are going to come in, the more structure, the more plan you will have. And if you have to do some course correction along the way and give things more attention than what you're not expected, well, I think that's okay. And let yourself off the hook and just move on. And also have the lens that, hey, this is beautiful. This is where I'm meant to be. And you're meant to be because that's where you are. So if that's where you are, that's where you're meant to be. So be present in that moment.
I think two things. You keep kind of referring back to the timeless work of Stephen Covey, where we spend so much time on distractions and interruptions versus, and I think this is where harmony comes in, versus working on what's important and making sure we carve out the time for what's important, because the distractions and interruptions will always find us.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that's part of harmony, and really looking at the alignment to values. So I want to refer back to the story, and our friends and family we're deeply committed to the relationships that we have and investing in those relationships. And so, that's a value set. So when you have this situation where it's a friend you've made a commitment to versus family, they both are high value for us. And so in that circumstance, that's why the decision in harmony is a little more difficult to make. Look at other choices that you have to make, where actually, if you, again, step into your values, it becomes pretty seamless how you can make that choice, because whichever one is most in alignment or harmony with your values is kind of the direction that I would say that you want to lean into. So I have another quote, because now I really want to this is a great conversation, but how do we really try to find this deep sense of fulfillment and step into that? So Ariana Huffington nails it with, you can have it all, just not all at once. And harmony is about recognizing that you don't have to do everything perfectly or all at the same time. So for me, one of the most powerful shifts was realizing that it's okay to let some things go in the back seat when something else is more important at the moment. And I think that's, Gerard was alluding to the fact that sometimes work requires this deeper level of commitment. There's a project, there's a situation at work, there's a huge opportunity that you're leaning into. Like a great example right now, this festival I'm working on and wanting to put out to the world as a movement has required a big commitment of time and energy and support from you and support from all the people in my life to say, hey, she's being called to this higher vision, go girl, right? And I need that to know that I'm supported in the situation. And also some of the other things are falling off. I'm not as available to other things in my life. And I know, based on all the seasons of navigating this back and forth, then on the other side of that is an opportunity to breathe and take some time out and, take 2 weeks off in a trailer like we did this summer and go off the grid at times. So I really feel like it's this, again, understanding the most important values to you and designing a life where all of those things get fed. And some seasons are work hard and some seasons are play hard. And sometimes they're all, perfectly in harmony, with some sort of equality. But so far, I've never found that. I find that you're ebbing and flowing constantly.
Well, Laurie, I have to say I was very proud of you, and I know how much work and effort's taken on this this women's event that you are having in Niagara on the Lake in October, and you worked your butt off in order for us to have those 2 weeks away to go see our son in Nova Scotia. And in those 2 weeks, we were pretty disconnected.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, clarify, disconnected.
From work.
Connected.
Right. From the technology. We were connected. But we really tried our best to disconnect from the technology, from the work, mm-hmm. and be together for that 2 week trip, which is something we've never done before, mm-hmm. traveling five provinces in 5 days in a trailer.
Or taking 2 weeks off straight.
Or taking 2 weeks straight and spend time with family and so Josh, beautiful. Your brother, your grandpa, mm-hmm. or daughter. It was absolutely fantastic. And then you came home, and I barely see you right now because you are you are working on the festival, and right now that's the time mm-hmm. to go all in on that, and that's okay. And I think what you've done a beautiful job of is setting those expectations with me. And to say, Gerard, right now, this is where I need to spend my time because this is really important. And I think when those expectations are set and there's an understanding, then it's very clear and we don't have to keep revisiting it. And I think you did an incredible job with that. And I'm very proud of you for all those efforts that you're putting in.
Thank you. And then you had a huge opportunity come up recently where it was really game changing for the business. And so again, as a couple, having the conversation, setting the expectations. Where do you need support? What do you need from me? How can I help in other areas to create more peace for you in that situation? So I think even as a couple, that's always ebbing and flowing. So, I think the message is great communication, really prioritizing and planning for that and knowing that things are always going to change and ebb and flow, but more leaning into this harmony thing versus this elusive balance. We're never going to have a life that is equal in energy required for all the different parts of what we focus on.
Well, regarding that example, Laurie, there's one thing just about my time, and luckily we have the relationship, and I think we have incredible communication, but as a leader, we're at the cottage, and we got up at my alarm clock, my mental alarm clock went off at 4:30 this morning. And because of this big project we're working on, I lit up the laptop and got right to work. And sure enough, I'm looking at it, and now with Teams, you can see who's on. And one of my leaders was on at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, well, I knew why he was on because we have some deadlines and whatnot, but still 5 o'clock in the morning is pretty early for most people. And so I sent him a little message saying, hey, are you up late or up early?
Little love note.
Yeah, are you up early? He goes, yep, Gerard, I know how important this is. We got to get this done. So I'm trying to get this out for you first thing in the morning, and I'm at it. And at first I felt bad, and I thought, hey, you know what? Like, hey, you don't need to do that. But I kind of paused on that and say, you know what? I just said thank you. I said, you know what? Thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope we get this thing done and we're able to get out of here early and enjoy the long weekend. And anybody who knows me as a leader, I have high expectations, but I really have a lot of compassion. I really believe in the harmony of the work, heart, mind, and soul, and getting that all in balance. And I appreciated that. And right now, it was for him time to grind down, get what we needed to get done to get this project done. And then, this afternoon, next week, or you can get off early and
have fun.
Go have some fun. But at that time, it was for him to grind and get her done, and he got it done. So
I'm gonna say
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Also, it reminds me of even this week we ended up coming to the cottage a day early because I recognized that I'd been spending a lot of time sitting at my laptop and then knowing your nervous system and knowing what it needs. And I said to Gerard, hey, I've got to get in nature. My body is getting out of balance. Really need to kind of take a deep breath. And so even that as a couple, for him to navigate and say, okay, as long as, our cottage doesn't actually have power. So we are super creative in all these different devices that the sun helps support. And I know it's a little archaic, and we make it work and still have really productive days here. But for him to understand me enough that, we were willing to have it be a little complicated so that when one of us is out of harmony and needs the support of the other, we can find ways to do that. And I think that that's really important when it comes to leaders you work with, people that you're in partnership with, is understanding we all are going to have different needs at different times.
Yep.
Also, that's just a truth. And even as a parent, your kids are going to have different needs at different times. As a leader, your people are going to have different needs at different times. So not only are you trying to find your own harmony, you're trying to help everybody else find their harmony too. And so this whole plant your feet where you are, be on fire when you need to be on fire, says Mike Lipkin. And just, be present and be you. I think that's be you. So do you have something to say to end this all? That was a great riff.
Was that a great riff?
That was a great riff. I always love riffing with you.
Where's the champagne?
It's not that time yet.
Well, it is Friday.
It is, but it's
Yeah.
It's not 5 o'clock here yet. 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So I think we said it all. I just think, I think the major takeaway is be where you are, be where your feet are, be present, be connected. When you're at work, be at work. When you're at home, be at home. When you're with your children, be with your children. And there's no apology.
So maybe it's just be.
Just be. Just be.
Yeah. We're not human. What's Harold's line? We're not human doings. We're human beings.
Well played.
And on that.
Well done, Harold Vine.
We'll see you on the next Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned podcast. Thanks for joining us today and having a little fun with Gerard and I.
Yes. Time to pop the cork.
I think it is.